Hello and welcome to VMwareDiary.com. This is Jiten, your host, and we are going to learn today about the NSX Manager Controller Deployment. Let me show you the topics which we will cover today. Okay, so here's the topic: the Lab 1 and Lab 2. We will cover both the labs in today's session. We have already learned about the deployment of NSX Manager in our last session. So today we are going to cover the lab 1, starting from lab 1 to lab 2. Okay, so in lab 1 we will cover the NSX Manager configuration, the web client plugin NSX Manager is installed or not. We will verify those things, and later on we will go for the NSX Manager license, whether these licenses are valid or not, or NSX Manager is licensed properly or not. And in the second lab 2, we will also look for deployment for NSX controller instances, and also verify whether the NSX controller deployment is properly installed and configured well. Okay, so let me show you, because in our last session we didn't display the prerequisites and some of the requirements for the NSX Manager. We didn't display that on the screen, so we have collected those information in a WordPad today, and let me show you that actually. So here is the requirement and a small explanation about the NSX Manager 6.4. What is NSXV and what is NSXT? So don't be confused about the NSXT and NSXV. They are actually for the different platforms. NSXV is dedicatedly used for the VMware environment. It is only launched for the VMware environment. In other words, you can say it only supports the VMware hypervisor. Whereas the NSXT is launched for the multi hypervisor environment, where you can use it with the cloud as well, with the Linux KVM and other cloud environment. Okay, so basically V stands for vSphere and T stands for multi-tenant actually. So don't be confused. We will cover all the topics in NSXV. We are learning NSXV, not the NSXT. Okay, and the version would be 6.4. See the architecture. It is as usual. There would be data plane, control plane, and management plane. Okay, and in the last, you can see the hardware requirement. Component NSX for NSX Manager, you would require at least 60 GB of memory, CPU, 4 CPU, and a 60 GB of hard drive. For a large scale of infrastructure, you must have 24 GB at a minimum memory requirement, and the 8 CPU with a 60 GB of hard drive. In the same manner, for NSX controller, which is another component for NSX Manager configuration, you must have 4 GB allocation for the NSX controller with this 4 CPU and a disk size of 28 GB. NSX is for NSX Edge. Actually, NSX is kind of a router or gateway. So, as a physical environment where the router usually have the 512 MB of RAM or 1 GB of RAM, or at max 2 GB of RAM. So here also in some router models we also have the 8 GB of RAM. So in the same manner, based on the requirement, based on the load on the NSX Edge which we are going to deploy in the environment, you can choose it in a segregations like compact, large, or quad large, or X large. Okay, the CPU configuration would be same for compact, large, quad large, X large accordingly, which is shown here in this word. Okay, in the same manner, the hard drive size would be 584 MB plus 512 MB. There would be two hard drives, so don't be confused here. I have just written here one disk 584 MB plus one disk 512 MB RAM. That means this NSX Edge should have two hard drives, which you don't need to configure. It will automatically pick these hard drives, these size of hard drives when you select the compact. Okay, when you go for the loads, it will automatically picks the memory size, CPU, number of CPU, and the disk size automatically. You don't need to configure it manually. Okay, and the last component gets introspection, which requires 2 GB, and CPU is 2 CPU, and the drive size will be 6.26. Okay, so here is the software requirement, wherein you must have vSphere 6.0 update 2 or free or onwards the coming version. So, and with 6.5a, it must be either A or update 2. Update 2 is recommended, or at least version is 6.5a. And in the same manner, for vSphere 6.7, it must be either 6.7 or update 1. Update 1 is recommended here. Okay, and with the vSphere 5.5, kindly note it down, that is not going to support with this NSX 6.4. Okay, so let's go to the topic and start performing the labs. So very first lab would be the review and modify the NSX Manager configurations. Okay, so in our last session we have already deployed the NSX Manager, and the IP was 192.168.0.31. Let me show you the configuration. Okay, so it is opening a bit slow. So here we have our environment already configured, and we have NSX Manager already deployed, which we did in our last session. So you can see here its IP address is NSX Manager IP address is 192.168.0.31. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to put this IP address in the URL, and let me close this URL first and put it back here so that you can see it from scratch. So that's it. You have an NSX Manager configuration console here, the management console. Okay, so here you would put the username and password. Okay, so this is the basic configuration console, and you need to go to the management appliance settings. Here you have the configuration which you have already done during the deployment of NSX Manager. So here you can change whether the configuration, if it is not well which you provided during the deployment, you can later on edit using these consoles. Okay, you can update the NTP servers. If you have syslog servers, then you can also configure the syslog server from here. put down the IP address, the URL, and the port number and all those things here. We don't have this in our environment, so we are leaving as it is. Okay, in the same way you have configure TLS the TLS the certificate or the encryption protocols to define here. Okay, you can choose and edit whether which version you want to use with this NSX Manager. Okay, so if you have like as you can see here, TLS v1 is unchecked. So if you have very legacy environment in your virtual infrastructures which will only support the TLS v1, not 1.1 or 1.2, then you can also select these both boxes here. Okay, and click OK. And the next tab we have network configurations. It is the same which you provided during the deployment. So if you have forget to put something which was really required, so don't worry, you can configure those things later on using this console. Okay, you can configure, edit, and put your all required components here. The IPv6, we are not using the IPv6, so we are leaving it blank. The domain name, if you have like, we have the domain name vmware.id.com, so I'm putting it here, which we forgot to put there during the deployment. Okay, and click OK. Okay, and in the bottom tab you have this DNS configuration. You can edit it and put the DNS, the secondary DNS or any IPv6. So that's still not usable here, so we are leaving it here. And then in the next tab you have this certificate configuration. So if you have any customized any CA certificate you are using, then you can import this or generate this certificate here. Okay, so we are not using that, so we are leaving it. And the next option we have backup and restore. So it is the same which you take the backup of the configuration, like from the HP console, the blade console, you would have option to take the configuration backup directly onto it or onto a different FTP platform. So in the same manner here we have this backup and restore option. If you want to take a backup, the configuration backup, you can backup, but before backing up you need to add the FTP server settings over here. And you can also schedule this backup. So here you have option to schedule this, so you can select the backup, so or either daily, weekly, hourly, and all those things, and the timings and minutes, and schedule it from here. Okay, so we don't have FTP as of now. We will also we will surely cover this FTP, using the FTP for the backup of NSX Manager and restore in a later labs. So in the next tab we have like the, if you want to upgrade this NSX Manager, then you can go to this tab, upgrade, and upload the bundles which you will get from the vmware.com. Okay, from the download portal you can download the upgrades of this NSX Manager 6.4, which is applicable for particularly this version, and just upload those support bundles from here. Select the files and continue, click continue. Okay, it will show you the updated version here, then later on it will automatically update the NSX Manager. Okay, so we will also cover like this topic in our later labs, wherein we will update the NSX Manager if there is any updates available from the VMware portal. Okay, and very last tab we have NSX Manager service. Actually this has been configured, so let me unconfigure this. Okay, this will like this will be like this in very scratch. Actually I have configured this prior to starting this video, that's why it is showing the vCenter server is showing as a connected. Otherwise, what you need to do, you need to put your vCenter IP address, username, and the password. Okay, and click on OK. And once clicking on OK, it will take a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, not the minutes actually. So, after a couple of seconds, you would see here a green icon, which will show that it is it is well connected with the vCenter servers, or it is like it has added an plugin with the vCenter, and properly make a connection with the vCenter. So in the same manner here, click on edit, okay, and put down the vCenter IP address. This is for the lookup service. Now, lookup service, that means say like search or make a query to the vCenter using this IP address. Okay, so let me put the SSO administrator username. So click on yes. See, the another green icon you would see under the lookup service URL. So the both boxes, the very first box lookup service URL and the second box vCenter server URL, both boxes must show the green icon to be confirmed whether the NSX manager is well configured to use. Okay, so that's all here. Okay, so let's go with our second lab. Let me go to the lab. Here you have like we have verified the NSX manager configurations. We reviewed and configured the NSX manager to work with our vCenter, and the next option would be vSphere web client plugin for NSX manager is installed. So let us verify whether it is well integrated with the vCenter or not. So what you need to do after all those configuration done from here, open the vCenter server and go to this home, and here you would see this networking and security. If you see that option networking and security under your home icon, that means your NSX manager is well configured to use with your vCenter. So click on this. Okay, so you will see here the NSX manager IP address and the status of the NSX manager, and the external components and all those things should be green. So here you can see two components are green, whereas the other component controller nodes are still no records because we haven't deployed the NSX controller. So we have verified here that NSX is working with our vCenter. So let's go to our second lab. Verify the NSX manager, NSX license are valid or not. So let me go to the licensing tab, go to the home, and go to license. Yes, licensing. So this is the license configuration, the license for NSX vSphere. Here you can see the license for vSphere is configured here. Okay, currently it is not using because we haven't configured the NSX for any of the virtual machines. So utilized license is 0. 0 VM is using this NSX license. Okay. And when you go to this product, you can see the capacity is 10 VMs. So for a compliance point of view, we are not going to show you the licenses because there would display the license keys. So being compliant, we are not going to show you that. So sorry guys. So just go to the next lab. In a second lab, we will go to the deployment of NSX controller instance. So let's go to the NSX controller to deploy the NSX controller. As you can see, let me show you what is NSX controller and why we are going to deploy that NSX controller. Okay, so in this explanation, you can see the control plan. NSX controller, that basically state management system which makes the function enable for the logical switching and routing. What it does, NSX controller responsibility is to keep the state information of the changes, the modifications, any addition or deletion of the routes and the paths. Okay, so it takes all the configurations and deploys and distributes it among the DLR, among the hosts, the VTAPs, among the edge, and all those things. So it only keeps the changes, the modifications, notification with it, and deploys those modifications equally to the number of DLRs which you have in your environment, with the DLR, with the edge, and with your gateway. So this is the core function of the NSX controller. So in order to deploy the NSX Manager, the very first step which we did, the NSX Manager deployment, and the second step would be to deploy the NSX controller. And the best recommendation and for a good practice, you must have at least 2 NSX controller deployed in your NSX Manager environment, in your virtual environment, to be redundant for any kind of failures, or to do the load balancing as well. If you have any large infrastructures and you have a load on those, very frequent modifications or changes is being done by the different administrators. So in those cases, you must have at least 2 NSX controller deployed in your virtual environment. So we don't have that much big environment here because this is my own lab. So let's go and deploy only 1 controller. Okay, so go to the NSX the plugin which is called networking and security, and go to the installation and upgrade, and here the second tab, NSX controller nodes. You can see the controller nodes box have nothing to display here because we haven't deployed those NSX controller till now. So let's go to click on add, and put the user password here. So I'm putting my own. Click next and put the controller name. So I'm gonna put here okay, select the data center. I have that home data center, and the resource pool, I would select this management cluster, the data store. So I'm gonna select the shared data store, shared 01, and the host. Let me pick any of the hosts, an issue. I have sufficient resource on all the hosts in management cluster. So let's pick the folder. I don't have any customized folder created till now, so let's select this, the default one. Connected to here, you need to select the port groups. So I'm selecting this management port groups and the IP pool. Here I have already created this controller IP pool. Okay. However, in a very first configuration, you would not see anything in this box. So what you need to do, you need to create a new IP pool. So you can give it the name as you like IP pool for controllers, and the gateway as per your environment, and the prefix length. The prefix length will be 24. Prefix length, that means the subnet, actually subnet mask. So I have kept here 24 bit, like 255.255.255.0. okay. So, and in next box you need to put the DNS, and I don't have secondary DNS, so I'm leaving it blank. DNS suffix, that means your domain, so I'm putting it here, my own domain, vmwarediary.com. okay, and this would be the basic configuration, and here you need to define the IP range, like I have selected here from 60 to 70. So this would be your IP range, and you need to click on save. That's it. So I have already created, so I'm not gonna click on save. I'm clicking cancel because I already have created this. Okay, click OK and click finish. Invalid NSX controller password defined. Actually, it asks you to put the very complex password, so it is giving you this kind of message. So what you need to do, you need to put the password, the very complex password. So I'm going to put here okay, click finish. So I have selected the very complex password. So you can see here in the status, under the status, you can see it is under the process of deployment. So let's wait for a couple of minutes. It's gonna take some time, like a couple of minutes. So I'm not going to continue this video till this final. So pausing this video, and we'll get back to you at its final stage when it's going to complete at the 100%. So you can see here it is still deploying. So let's go to the host and cluster. So now you can see the deployment of the controller is done, and you can see the status is connected, and green icon is showing. So when you see the green icon, that means controller is deployed successfully without any issue. Okay, and the IP address which has taken from the IP pool, that is 60. Don't be confused with this controller number, controller 3, as it is showing. So why it is showing controller 3? As we don't have any other controller deployed, because we I personally tried 2 times back already, which gone failed, which had some issue. So we deleted those controllers firstly. So that's why it's picking the controller number 3. So that's not an issue in your lab. If you are going in your production any environment, if you deploy it at very first time, it's gonna pick the controller number 1. Okay, so Let's go to the next lab. Verify the first NSX controller instance is operational. So let's see whether this is deployed and it is well operational and what the hardware configuration it has taken. So let's go to the host and cluster view, and here you can see our NSX controller is deployed, okay, which is on this host 192.168.0.24, which we have taken during the deployment, okay. And here is the IP address which it has taken from the IP pool, okay. And let's go to the hardware, what hardware resource it has taken. So it has taken this 4 CPU, okay, and with the memory of 4 GB, and hard drive size is 28 GB. So that's the configuration of this controller, and you can click on the icon to see whether what's going on the console, direct console, and you can see here it is deployed successfully and it is blinking at the login console. So that's all guys. Now you have deployed this NSX controller, so we will go to the next lab in our next video, which will be, the topics will be install NSX for vSphere modules on the ESXi host. So we will see whether the host preparation options under the NSX Manager, what it does and what it deploys and what all configuration is done under this NSX for vSphere modules on ESXi host. And we will also see the configuration of VXLAN on ESXi host and configure the VXLAN ID tool, which is generally starts from the 5000. We will look into that, and we will also explain what the VXLAN IDs and how do we create those VXLAN IDs and from which number it starts from, okay. And also look for the local transport zone. We will create a local transport zone to create a port group. It is a kind of port groups actually, which is used to transmit the data of the controllers between the management controllers and the DLRs, and the between edge and controllers, and all between the management components communications. We use this transport zone, okay. So we will look into this in our next video, and later on we'll also cover the lab 4 in the next video, wherein you will create a logical switch, verify the logical switch port groups appears in the vSphere, and the next migrate virtual machine to logical switches, between the logical switches which we will create, okay, and test the network connectivity. So these topics, lab 3 and lab 4, we will cover in our next video. So thank you guys, thank you. Please keep sharing and click on share and click on the bell icon of the video, okay. Thank you, have a nice day, bye bye.